Thank you for joining us on the Winning at Selling podcast. I'm Bill Hellkamp of Reach Development Systems, and with me is Professor Scott Plum of the Minnesota Sales Institute.
What do prospects look for in a salesperson? I submit following through on promises. This requires accountability to ourselves, our employers, and most importantly, prospects so that they become clients. Stay tuned to learn how to overcome your fear as Bill and I discuss what is accountability and other great ideas on episode 528 of Winning at Selling podcast.
Well, Scott, I'm excited to talk about accountability. I know we're supposed to do the book club first, but I didn't read the chapters. So,
okay.
I
was counting on you to do this.
I know.
Our listeners are counting on you to do this.
All right. Well, you know what? How many times have we run into that with people? Gosh, I know I promised to get it.
It was chapters 12 and 13.
Yeah,
I didn't
that's
know
right.
It was 10 and 11.
Oh, yeah. But
they weren't clear expectations.
I didn't know you want me to do it.
Oh, okay.
Well, folks,
something more important came up.
Yeah, we've heard a friend of mine called that excusitis, right?
Yeah.
You know what that was in? That was
Thinking
Magic
Big.
of Thinking Big.
We have the Magic of
Excusitis.
Thinking Big.
Yeah, there you go. All right, folks.
All right.
Let's talk about the book club, How Clients Buy, Part 3, Chapters 10 and 11. And I'm going to find the page here in my book, but if you are reading along with us, on page 91 is his chart going through awareness, understanding, interest, respect, trust, and able, and then they're ready to buy. So it's a step-by-step process. Today, we're going to talk about understanding and interest. So chapter 10, element 2, understand. I understand what you do. You do what? He likes to do these back and forth sort of things. Right. So what he talks about in this is you really need to figure out your value proposition, who you are, who you serve, what you do, and what makes you unique in the marketplace. And we had Bo Nordby on our show a couple of weeks ago, and he's a marketing guy, and that's the first thing he talks about is what's your unique value proposition. So it is a marketing idea. I thought it was interesting. I really like this part. He talked about so many companies now their names no longer reflect what they are. It used to be Johnson Accounting Services, and now it's AccuRep, or Accenture. Well, what does Accenture do? I don't know. It's funny because I watch commercials now for these companies, and they'll spend millions of dollars to advertise on the Super Bowl, right? Mm-hmm. And I watch their commercial and I go, I still don't know what you do.
Right. Yeah.
You herd sheep with cats, and then so yay, that's great. That was a lot of fun, but I still don't know what you do. So you told me you're a fun company, but not what you do. So
they don't want to be accountable to delivering on it.
You're getting ahead. You're getting ahead. That's your part. Your part. All right. So he does ask, how do we stand out with 10,000 marketing messages per day? And I don't think, from my standpoint, and I think from most of our salespeople's standpoint, you don't have control over advertising. So the way you stand out in the marketplace as part of your company, or like you and I, Scott, as the company, is what you do, what you say, how you relate to other people. You're the walking, talking personification of what people's expectations are about your business. And even for large companies, they don't know the corporation. They know you.
Right.
And they know the people they're working with in the company, and that's all they have to measure it by. So that's how we break through 10,000 marketing messages. A marketing message isn't as powerful as a personal relationship.
Yeah, we had David Hoffeld on a few weeks ago too. In his first book, The Science of Selling, he talks about people buy you before they buy the company. And they really have to be able to believe that you are the person that is going to provide them the best solutions to the problems that they've shared with you and how you understand the problems that they're experiencing. And that's really important when clients are asked to change, is where do they get the most confidence? And the salesperson is the president of the company when they are in the office of a prospect. The salesperson is the president of the company when they're in the office of the prospect.
We're everything.
Authority.
We're everything.
Right, yeah, exactly.
And maybe the pieces of paper we bring along with us, we have some documentation in that. it can,
that's validation.
that's validation. Exactly what I
That's
was
all
going
it
to say.
is.
Yep.
It's all
Yep.
validation of what I'm saying is true. Here's what I'm saying. Here's how I can prove it because it's printed in a company brochure from marketing. And, like you said earlier, I mean, we as salespeople need to be able to associate ourselves with keywords, just like websites are embedded with keywords. Salespeople need to identify with keywords. And I think about my network, and if somebody says, I'm interested in looking at a franchise, I go, you need to talk to John Francis. His nickname is Johnny Franchise. He knows everything there is to know about
Mm-hmm.
franchises.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And if you think about HubSpot, I go, you need to talk to Dave Meyer over there at BusyWeb. Our friends at BusyWeb. Think of HubSpot, BusyWeb.
That's right.
Build these 5 words that you as a salesperson want to be associated with, and then remind your prospects what you do in those 5 words.
Yeah, I think
Always
that's
pick
great.
those 5 words.
And I think he also, what I like to, that's kind of the elevator pitch sort of thing he talked about. But he also talked about finding a particular niche, and the Beckwith book, Selling the Invisible, also talked about that. Don't try to be everything to everybody. Be a particular niche and grow from that, or niche. Niche.
Niche. Yeah,
And
French.
and that's right, a little Frenchy there. And but I like that he talked about, where are you unique? Are you the first? Are you the best? Are you the biggest? For me, the area that I focused on is I customize. Every one of my programs that I do has some level of customization for the customer. I go in, I learn about them, I do a number of interviews, I spend time with them, and then we develop the program. Now, that I don't develop it 100% from scratch, but I do develop it. The company, one of the companies I'm working with right now, we're going to talk about selling the wallet share, which is a great concept, because what they're challenged with is they're not getting all the business from their customers that they could get, and understanding what the size of the wallet is an important part of that. So we're going to have to do some of that. So we customize it, right? I liked the concept you talked about, shrinking the pond. Right? Make yourself the biggest fish in a smaller pond. I do this specific thing, and therefore I can say I'm the best at it because I'm specific to this small pond.
Right. I think in most cases, as we're doing more stuff virtually, I think it increases our territory as long as we're observing certain regulations in other states. We do a lot of stuff virtually now, so we can take on more clients that are in other countries or other states within the United States. So
we're not traveling as much. I think that's what I got the most out of COVID, was learning how to train online, do programs internationally, which I wouldn't have been able to do before unless everybody traveled to Minneapolis, or I traveled to India, or wherever we had to travel to, which increases the cost. It makes it a little bit harder on us as a trainer. It makes it a little bit harder on, I think, the listener, but you can break things up into smaller bites and that sort of thing too. So I want to end this, as he ends each chapter, with tactics that will help you, because I think this is where he's really good at helping you identify how you can get better in these areas. So his tactics: you need to go out and meet people. You need to be in networking groups. You need to be out in the marketplace. Your front door of your office is the lid on your coffin if you're not out there meeting people. You need to write so you get known. You need to speak. You need to do cold calling to meet new people. You need to do some targeted advertising, which is usually the responsibility of somebody other than you. And then you need to have a good website that is attractive to people. So I like his tactics on that. And he closes each one of these chapters with that. Any last words that you have on understanding?
I validate that on the closing each chapter with the tactics. I think that's a great summation, and it's a great action point. One thing that I think is really important, I love this from the book Positioning, written by Al Ries and Jack Trout. I read that many, many years ago. And chapter 1 is, if you're not a leader in a niche, create a new niche. And the example that he uses is, who's the first person to fly across the Atlantic Ocean? Well, I mean, everybody knows that's Charles Lindbergh from Little Falls, Minnesota. Who was the second? And the second person is Bert Hinkle, who actually flew in a shorter period, or shorter distance, better pilot, more fuel efficient. He was a better pilot than Charles Lindbergh when it came to flying across the Atlantic Ocean. How many remember him? They don't. But
they didn't have a parade for Bert.
No, they didn't. But if we're not a leader in one category, we need to create a new category. That's what Bill's talking about, is really getting a niche where you're a big fish in a small pond.
I got to tell you, one of the people that we talked about, Bo Nordby, and he's got an online program. I think he's going to come back as an advertiser for us. But I would have you go to Orange Ball Creative. Is it
Yeah.
orangeballcreative.com? But
Orange
look up
Ball.
Orange Ball Creative. I don't know what their website is, but he can help you with that. Bo's a great guy and very knowledgeable in helping you find that niche, Scott,
Yeah,
niche that's going to
French.
help you. So, all right, let's move on to chapter 11 just for time here, because I want to
Yeah,
give a
yep,
lot of
I
time to
agree.
your accountability topic. Element 3, I am interested. Uh, it's funny how close these are to the Dale Carnegie sales, attention, interest, conviction, close. Anyway, interest. These are my goals. So here's how we started out, which I always find funny. We made our pitch, and they have no need for us. That's his problem. He still keeps thinking you got to pitch this stuff. And he's got this old image, I think, of salespeople in his mind that we go and we sit down with some, hey, let me tell you what I got. Let me show you some things. Let me pull out my catalog. And if you do that, you're making a big mistake. Discovery creates interest, not pitching. Questions create a dialogue, not telling, not opening up your company pitch. Please stop pitching and start having a conversation with people. As you say, be a problem finder. So I'm going to let you talk about that, because that's really where he goes in this chapter.
Yeah, this is a great chapter. And I think two things that he made very clear in the beginning of the chapter is what you do is relevant to them and their goals first and period. Your services must promise to have a significant positive impact on these goals. And as I work with salespeople and role play with them or do the ride-alongs with them, and I really start with, what problems do you solve? And I can start there, but that doesn't mean that they're going to implement it right away. And as we start doing role playing, or as we start getting on ride-alongs, they go right to the solutions. Well, we do this, and this, and all of a sudden they want to compete on price. They want to commoditize their own product or service. No, that's not it. Let's find out what's most important to them. Let's find out the criteria that they follow when they purchase. Let's find out the process they follow when they purchase and the people that are involved. And that's getting information, at the same time sharing information about what you do and asking questions to uncover that interest, so that you can create a solution that sticks to a problem now or in the future.
Absolutely. We can't be relevant if we're guessing or assuming what their problem is. And that's what a pitch does. A pitch goes in and says, let me assume, because we're so wonderful. And that's what most company pitches are.
Of course, we're the best.
Chest pounding. We're in 18 different countries, and we have a London office and a Rio de Janeiro. And it's like, oh, I'm Farley from Fargo, and I don't care. But now maybe you're too big for me. So you haven't figured out what their needs are, what their issues are, what their challenges are, as you say, what their buying process is. If you don't find that out, you're going to assume a problem, and you're going to be wrong 80% of the time. And that's what he talked about. Well, we made our pitch. Well, that's not what we really need right now. Okay. Well, now you've just shot all your ammo, and you've got nothing left, because you gave them your pitch, and now you can't say, well, we do other things too.
Right. Well,
too late. Oh, wait, tell me what your problem is, and then I'll tell you we can do it. Oh, well, you already missed the mark. Yeah. You missed the chance to do that.
They're not going to share any more information with you. They shut it down.
That's right. So, okay, let's wrap up the tactics on this one. You need to communicate clearly. He says, listen. Well, you're not communicating if you're talking, and you're not listening. So I would say the thing you need to add to tactics is develop 10 questions before you go into an appointment, so you know what you're going to ask about. Then allow them to communicate clearly. Do some research. See, he's assuming the research is going to tell you what their problems are.
Right.
So I think he's got this a little backwards. Anyway, listen and add value. I don't know where to add value till I found out what their issues are. So interest comes, as I would say, from questions, and then you can create relevance. But until you know, as Scott said, what their buying cycle is, what their issues, who's involved, where they're having challenges, if you don't do that, you're going to be just guessing and throwing stuff against the wall.
I think one of the last things the author said in the chapter is, always remember that your client really wants to work with you, but they may have other pressing objectives on their plate. So never mistake interest with readiness. And I think one of the questions that every salesperson needs to ask is, when they start to uncover that need and they start to see that interest and they start to see the prospect being motivated to make a change, a question has got to be asked is, what other priorities do you have right now that may be competing with this initiative that we're talking about right now?
That's a great
I've
question.
had it come up, and all of a sudden my program is taking a backseat to some other program. And I want to know what other priorities a company has and how important this is, so that I can hold them to the timeline that I'm proposing and they're accepting, so that we can create an implementation schedule based on when they want to receive the benefits of the product or service that I offer.
And
So
all these things are easier to get out of them before you're trying to close it.
Exactly. I mean,
you get
what is
this
an
stuff,
objection?
That's right. You get this stuff out early, so that then you can work with them. But if you wait too long, then it's closing, and now it feels like you're going to use this information against them. So these types of questions Scott's asking are to be done early. Great point.
Right. I mean, an objection is just an unasked question before we proposed a solution or delivered a quote or a proposal. So ask the questions up front before you end up giving a solution or a proposal. Otherwise, after you give a proposal, every question they ask or every stall or pitfall or objection is a distraction and a delay to incorporating what the prospect wants, because that's what you talk to them about. So,
all right. Excellent point.
Great chapter.
All right. So next week, we're going to stay on part 3, how clients buy, chapters 12 and 13. So go out there. If you haven't gotten the book, it's a good book. It's got flaws in it in kind of how he looks at salespeople. I think Scott's liked it for a long time. So I think it's a very valuable book, and I like his tactics part.
Yeah. And the process is simple to follow. I just think some of the positioning that he has each chapter is, you can kind of tell the relevance of where he's coming from too.
That's right. That's right. All right. So what's our next topic, Scott?
So today we're going to be talking about accountability. This is something that I think people just kind of get really nervous about, going, oh, accountability. What is accountability? Oh, I feel pressure. My blood pressure is going up. And I just finished reading a book called The Theory of Accountability. Here's a copy of it right here in front of me. No, this is audio, so there's no visual if you're looking at your phone. I'm sorry.
I saw it, though. I saw it.
Okay, all right.
I've got mine on order. I think we're gonna make that our next book after we finish this, right?
So. Yeah, Sam Silverstein, and we've scheduled him for podcast episode 533, which will be released on October 17th. I highly encourage you to listen to that interview, and I highly recommend you to look at this book and consider buying it. It's a fast read. He takes a very different approach when it comes to accountability. I don't want to get into a lot of what's in his book, because I want to save that for the interview and the podcast that we do with him, and also incorporate more of it as we use it as our book club going forward. But I believe accountability is established on the first day. It's based on clear written expectations of the role in whatever relationship you have that you are accountable for on a daily basis. And then following the clear expectations, and in most cases in writing. If it's a business environment, a business relationship, it should be in writing. If it's a personal relationship, it's not always in writing. And then followed by consequences. And if the consequences are not met, and consequences are more than just termination, consequences are an opportunity to deliver more information, techniques, resources, in order to meet the expectations that have been established. So we've got 3 points to follow when it comes to onboarding salespeople. Is one, clear expectations. Everybody knows what are clear expectations. What are some of the expectations that need to be defined? What is a perfect day? What is a perfect week? How many people do we expect you as a salesperson to reach out and attempt to have a conversation with every single week? How many conversations, how many meetings, how many proposals? We need to go through that entire sales process to be able to identify where the kink in the hose is. And in most cases, it's just salespeople not getting in front of enough prospects. So holding everybody accountable to delivering the resources, delivering the coaching, delivering the direction, that's leadership's job. And then the salespeople to follow through on what their role is and what the expectations that leadership has. All of that creates a culture within a company. And a culture is defined by what leadership is willing to tolerate. And if leadership tolerates low standards, they're going to get low standards, because people always rise to the lowest standard that is acceptable in
Mm-hmm.
order to maintain complacency and keep their jobs. And I've seen it happen more and more and more, especially salespeople that are on salary. The best way to make sure nothing goes wrong is to make sure nothing happens. Then nothing can go wrong. And that's a bad thinking. That's a bad philosophy. So I've also have read the book Five Dysfunctions of a Team, written by Patrick Lencioni, which includes accountability as level 4. So we start with trust on the 5 dysfunctions. So building trust. Otherwise, we have this artificial harmony because we can't engage in conflict. And if we can't engage in conflict, then everybody's nice to each other. But conflict creates, creativity comes from conflict, and better solutions come from conflict. And then once we get to conflict, we all commit to whatever decision was made within that step. And then we get to accountability. And then when everybody's accountable to each other, they're accountable to each other. So teammates are accountable to each other. We're in a sales meeting. We say to everybody publicly, what's your number going to be this week? And a number is about behaviors and leading goals versus lagging goals. What's your number? And then everybody makes that public. Weight Watchers does this when you weigh people in. I mean, everybody gets to see what your weight is. What do you want to be? How committed are you to getting down to the weight that you want? So they create a public commitment for everybody to work together to support each other on that. So, but who makes you accountable? Bill, when you think of accountability, who makes you accountable?
Well, because of the nature of my business, I have to be accountable to myself. So I have to set goals and put myself into a position where I either penalize or reward myself for not hitting those goals. Now, I do have a wife, so she can help me. If we're not making enough money, she does remind me that that the income is not where she wants it to be. But I think on a day-to-day basis, I think there's a point where you have to develop a self-discipline, and accountability is a big part of that.
Yeah, and and what happens when there's no accountability? In your experience, when you've worked with the companies, I mean, what's there's no accountability? What do you see?
Well, I think we tend to generally gravitate to that which we feel most comfortable with. So I see a lot of organizations where people get promoted but continue to do their old job from this new position. So and every time one of their reports gives them work to do. Oh, Bill, can you help me with this proposal? Sure, I know how to do proposals, and I take the whole thing away and I do it because I feel competent. Where my real job is to help Larry figure out how to do a proposal. Instead of helping him, I just do the whole thing and then say, here you go. And then I shake my head and go, man, I'm working really hard doing proposals for all 10 of my reports. And instead, I should be thinking, wait, why am I doing this? Why am I working below my pay grade? And I'm working there because that's where I'm most comfortable. And to do the job I'm supposed to do, then I have to work up a level. And if no one's holding me accountable, I'll stay down at the level I think I should be at. So
it sounds like the sales manager is being accountable to company leadership, but the sales manager is not holding the salespeople being accountable to their roles and obligations and expectations that the sales manager has of them. So in order for the sales manager not to be exposed, the sales manager ends up doing the work of the salespeople to make sure that nobody finds out what's going on in the sales channel.
It can be exposure, but it can also be that the sales leadership isn't holding them accountable to what their job is. Their job is to create better salespeople.
Right.
And so if no one's holding them accountable, if I'm holding the VP only accountable to the sales goals, and they're working at the lower level to get those done, well, I'm seeing the sales goals being hit. I'm satisfied with customer response. I'm satisfied with the numbers that we're getting. And so, okay, if I really dig down in the numbers, I'll see that the sales manager is making 80% of the sales. And the team of 5 or 6 or 10 salespeople is making the other 15 or 25% of them. That should alarm me.
Yeah.
As a sales leader, as an organizational leader, right? The president of the company or the head of the VP of sales and marketing, whatever that is, that should alarm me if my sales leadership is making all the sales still.
Right.
But I can be blamed for that because I just made the best salesperson the new leader, and
Well,
all they want to do is sell anyway. So that's part of the problem.
that's not a good situation. I
Yeah.
worked with one company, and I had a meeting with the sales manager, and there was about 8 salespeople in the department. And I asked the sales manager, I said, "So, how is each person doing on their annual goal right now?" And he said, "Well, the year is not up yet." I'm like, "Well, okay, we're 10 months in to the year. How is each person doing?" And the sales manager said, sales manager said this, "Hey, man, as long as they make their annual number, I don't care where they are during the month or the year, as long as they make their number."
How are they going to make their annual number if it's got to all be made up in December?
We're in the 10th month. They're at 60% of their goal.
Yeah. And what they'll
And
do is they'll cut prices to in December.
exactly.
They'll cut prices to hit goals that because they didn't do the work for the first 10 months, and they'll drop their drawers and take whatever somebody will give them. And then everybody will, oh boy, where profitability is bad. Well, of course you manage yourself
The
right.
goal was unrealistic to begin with.
You manage yourself right into.
This is after, COVID's had an effect on all of us, and we've got this excuse making after that. When why didn't we hold people accountable? And this is the sales manager's job, not wanting to make a commitment of coaching and training and developing the salespeople. So they just left the salespeople on their own. Hey, go ahead and do it. It's up to you. Go ahead.
Month 10, I don't. Month 10, I don't know where they are.
I'm not going to keep track of your vacation days.
That's right.
Just make your number. And
then
they don't make their number.
Yeah, a couple things I want to mention. So one, I wish salespeople were as good at selling their product as they are at selling their excuses.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my gosh. I mean, they can overcome any objection to why they didn't hit their goals. And then the second thing is, you very early in your conversation, you were talking about the appointment. One of the things that I started teaching a number of years ago was a follow-up sale or a follow-up meeting report that goes to you and the people that were in the meeting and outlines exactly what we said we would each do. You said you would send me by Friday a copy of this. You said you would do this, and then I promised to do these 5 things, and we're going to meet again on the 14th, and I'll bring those 5 things to that meeting. And it's amazing when I send that out, the number of times they go, "What? Wait a minute, I didn't remember that expectation." Okay, can you still do it? Can you do that? Or there was one other thing I thought I wanted you to bring. Okay, I'm glad you clarified that. You thought I was going to bring it. I didn't hear that, so let's make sure that we bring it. And if they don't answer it, guess what? Everything must have been correct. Right. So if they complain to you at the next meeting, well, you didn't do this, you say, let's look at my letter. I did exactly what I said I would. Did you not read it?
Yeah. Right.
And you need to hold customers accountable.
True.
Sometimes too, with the way that you act. And if you put things down on paper, man, I'll tell you what, people tend to become more accountable when it's written down.
Right. I mean, if you leave a voicemail message, follow up with an email.
That's right.
And then sometimes you need to, in your email or your voicemail, you say, if I don't hear from you in 2 days, I'm going to call you back. And we're going to continue to make sure that we're staying on track, or make sure that we're getting to the next step, or to make sure that, there's interest or no interest.
That's right.
And then if there's no interest, then you get to spend time with prospects that want to buy from you, that are interested in what you have to offer. Too often, salespeople just kind of clog up their pipeline with unqualified prospects.
Well, they like it because then they say they've got all this stuff in their pipeline. Well, why haven't you touched them in 6 months? They're not in your pipeline anymore.
Right.
Anyway, let's wrap this up. What can we do to be more accountable? What can we learn? I know we're going to spend a lot of time in this book. So what are some of your suggestions that we do to become more accountable?
To incorporate accountability is first to really set goals, and to consider the leading goals and then the lagging goals. So concentrate on the leading goals. Communicate.
Well, tell us what you mean by leading goals.
So you look at the sales process, the results are the lagging goals, the numbers. Well, we sold $13.5 million. That's a lagging goal. This year we made, 22,000 outbound emails or phone calls, or, what are we doing at the beginning of the pipeline, the sales funnel, in order to start creating interest and curiosity with people who don't know about us or need us, but have never heard about us? Or how can we become an option to people that feel like there are no other options out there? And all of a sudden we call and we offer a better option, better value. And
wait a minute, you're getting into the call. You're getting into call rehearsal.
Yeah.
So the point is we're leading indicators or activities that we can control, such as making phone calls, sending out emails, making appointments, and those all lead to lagging indicators, which are the sales themselves.
Yeah, right. So set goals, communicate expectations to everybody that's involved, rally the resources that you have. The resources are maybe people, services, assets that the company has that can be used to your advantage, and then execute on what your strategy is in order to achieve the desired outcome that everybody wants. And here's one thing that we need to be aware of: manage the distractions that you're going to have, and also manage your priorities.
Excellent.
Your priorities in your life. And we hear about work-life balance. Well, that's a priority decision. What's our priorities? So we as people have priorities we need to be able to follow. So commitment and dedication builds value. Focus on that, and you're going to be able to build a great reputation.
Yeah, my wife put a quote up, and I don't know it exactly because it's really long, but it starts off, don't worry about your goals, worry about your habits that lead you to those goals. Focus on your habits. And that's what Scott's talking about. The habits you have are commitment and dedication. That's what builds value. It's all about your habit. John Maxwell says that your success is built in your daily routine.
Right. Yeah. Great quote.
All right. So as we wrap up today, any resources that you have, Scott?
Everything that I have is a resource, but there's nothing specific to this day. It's just when I go to a restaurant and they go, "What's the special?" The server says, "We have no specials." Oh, okay. Well, I'm glad I came in here. Everything's on special today.
That's right. Okay, our golden nugget today. This comes from a past boss of mine. I looked it up to see if he had stole it from somebody, and there's a couple of references that are similar. But people do what you inspect, not what you expect. So if you want to catch from my friend John LaBeouf, who was my manager 40 years ago in a retail situation, and I use that all the time. Quit expecting people to do good work. Start inspecting, and all of a sudden they start to become accountable.
Right. Great quote. So everything we talked about is going to be at winningatselling.com.
And next week, our book club, as I mentioned before, How Clients Buy, Part 3, Chapters 12 and 13. Still time to go out and pick up that book. And our topic, we're going to do questions from our listeners again. So we like to do that. If you have some questions, you have a couple of days to get those in from the time we put this out to the time that we cut the new episode. So now also I want to remind you, Scott and I are trying to get to 12,000 downloads in September. That's where things start to get busy again. Everybody's getting serious after August. So please subscribe, share the podcast with your colleagues, put it on your social media. We put it on LinkedIn. If you're on LinkedIn with us, you'll see it. Repost it. We'd love to have you do that. Go out and get better, one skill at a time.
Joyful selling.